Board games, it's what I'm talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing, and over there you will see all the wonderful people, starting with Alan Paull. Alan Paull has been on this show, and hopefully Alan won't be going anywhere. Tally is someone else over to the side, and Tally has recently delved into making games the doggo dash and come onto the scene like a figurative flash or splash. Anyway, and over there is Janice Turner, who is a returning guest. This is a second time to ponder things with Janice, and we are going to have some talk. Anyway, moving on swiftly, it is Jess. I'm not going to say Jess is the best because everyone is wonderful and there is lots of love for you all. Anyway, board games and supporting playtesters is what we're talking about. Board games and supporting playtesters. I'm not going to shout. Hey, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Hello.
It is lovely to see you all. I am Bez. We are blethering about board games. If someone wants to take a bath, they are welcome to, although if you're on camera, it might be logistically difficult, but that is still your prerogative. We're not withholding that opportunity to anyone. So if you want to make it bath time, you can make it bath time. It's up to you. And coming up today, we're talking about supporting playtesters, going round. You will see all these people and their names on the screen. Clockwise, we have, again, Alan Paull, Talita Rhein, Janice Turner, and Jessica Hancock. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Hello, Nicholas. It's lovely to have you in the audience. And yeah, so before we get stuck into it, I thought I'd make it clear what we're going to be talking about today. We're not going to be talking about what is playtesting. That's at least, we might touch on a lot of things, but we're not going to dwell on what is playtesting. We're not going to dwell on how to be a good playtester. We're not going to be dwelling on how to run a good playtesting session. We're going to dwell on how to support your playtesters so they essentially feel valued, so that it's fair to everyone, so that everyone feels loved and appreciated, and it's, a valuable experience for everyone. And yeah, going round quickly before we start, can I ask you, why did you agree to talk about this thing? Alan?
Oh, I'll talk about anything, Bez. No, I'm actually quite interested in this because I'm doing a lot of playtesting at the moment for Kingmaker. I always talk about Kingmaker, and this is involving a lot of playtesters. So I've got over 50 potential playtesters there. So and the bit I'm interested in is how we support online playtesting, because that's a real critical one nowadays.
For Doggo Dash, I lose count of how many playtesters I had after the 100 person, like the person number 100, and until nowadays I still appreciate playtesting. Now online, as Alan said, I'm super curious the experience everyone here has to share.
I'm just about to start a new round of playtesting for a game. I almost exclusively do it remotely rather than necessarily online, so I don't tend to use Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia. It tends to be stuck in the play version. So yeah, so I guess it's very topical to anything to come out to maybe do different this time to what I've done previously. But yeah, so just about to start a new round of playtesting.
Interestingly, I'm different from everyone else because I'm not a games designer. So you might be like, Jess, why are you here? But I work as a community manager at Meet Max Games. I've recently joined, and part of my role is to set up and manage a community of playtesters for that company. So that's a lot of what I'm going to be doing. So that's why there's invited me along to this.
And being someone who's kind of taking care of these people, and community management is almost like everything could be connected if you work hard enough. I mean, board games we've decided are so similar to blinds or TV screens or whatever, but it's just a case of everyone here does have something valuable to contribute. So I'm really excited to get talking about that. And a quick hello to Jay Foolsguard in the chat, and everyone who's watching, thank you. And I hope that you enjoy a good show. But as always, we're going to have a few quick regular topics for the next 20 minutes-ish, where we get to know each other and what everyone's been up to recently. Let's start off with recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. Now, my personal recent highlights, I recorded a thing on Twitch Sings for the first time, and I wasn't around, but I saw Loserpalooza playing that and singing with it, which was wonderful fun. Also, I played 4 games, I want to say, with Chris and McCall last night. One was Wibble, which we'd not played in years, possibly. And then we played, and like McCall actually said, hey, can we just play one of the LDEC games, because maybe it was the end of the night and didn't want to learn something we had previously played. I don't know if people know these ones. I'll make my screen a wee bit bigger. Firstly, Code 777 or Code 777. Quite an old game. It's a deduction game. You can see everyone else's numbers. People answer questions about what they can see, and then you deduce based on everyone else's what they might be seeing in yours. For example, if someone can see as many 5s as 7s, and you look around and you see that everyone else has as many 5s and 7s, then suddenly you know that either you have one of each or neither of each. And it's that sort of logical deduction puzzle that some people will enjoy and some people will hate. As it happens, McCall hated it, but it was fun learning that. And this was Destroy Barcelona, which is done by some Spanish people. Lovely concept, flawed execution. You're rotating the dice. The dice are actually moving around as you move them from space to space. They flip around, but you get these special powers which are very unbalanced, I venture to say. And yeah, but it was good fun. It was lovely being with everyone else, and yeah, just seeing everyone else and having that time together, which is what, of course, a board game can facilitate. And if it's not your favorite, you don't have to play it a second time. So yeah. Alan, what was your recent highlights?
Well, today we found out that our friend Frances Harding, who's one of our freeform LARPers friends, she's an author. She writes books for young adults, and her book, The Cuckoo Song, it's just been announced that it will be a TV series. So that is really exciting. If you haven't actually read any of her stuff, do get this. It's really good quality fantasy writing. Her writing is really superb. So that's a really great highlight, and that's going to go straight on our must-watch list once it comes out. But I think it's literally just been commissioned, so it's going to be a while before it comes out. So that's a recent highlight. Been playing a few games. We've got our Consequences freeform group is now doing first Monday in every month board game sessions. So that's really, really interesting as well. So we've got another session of board games, and we've been playing a bit of The Crew, which is a very nice kind of trick-taking game where you're cooperatively working together to achieve particular objectives in taking tricks in a card game. Also played through the ages as well online. So a couple of highlights for you there.
My highlights are, first, I'm obsessed with the soundtrack of a game I was playing. It's a Spanish game called the Red Strings Club. I'm posting here the link on our private chat for the soundtrack that I'm obsessed with. The artist, the musician, is a transgender woman from Valencia, and it's amazing. I've been listening like over and over the last days, and it's helping me to concentrate to make my new game. I'm making another card game. This is the prototype, paper prototype, but it's a battleship game. And yeah, like I've been thinking about the mechanics and studying a little bit. This is my highlight, is pretty much making games. And of course, working on Dogo Dash fulfillment now, learning so much stuff about how to make a game sellable, and yeah, to finish the production of Dogo Dash, and then like listening to music and making more games.
My youngest wrote her name for the first time yesterday, and it was actually legible. She was like, wow, she can actually start writing, which is a great thing. I also started writing the rules for my new game, which I've finally actually to get around to do it, and I finished doing all the sort of prototype artwork so that it looks slightly prettier than scribbles on cards. In terms of playing games, it's not so much of a highlight this time, unfortunately. I've been playing the Sherlock Box 2, the linked 3 cases, and I'm a bit disappointed at the moment. There's just so much information, it's really limited, and you don't ignore all the scoring normally and just like delving into the story, but this one, it really forces you to not do that, and you don't get any of the questions until the end of the 3rd day. So hopefully the 3rd case will be much more, or the 3rd day will be more rewarding, because we'll actually feel like we've completed something. Still kind of enjoying it, I'm still looking forward to the next box, but it's not been as good. But it's still been fun, and it's been great having a regular gaming group every week, which we've not done for years, yeah. So it's great to get to be gaming regularly again.
And for me, yeah, so I work for a variety of companies, as mentioned. So one of the companies I work for is EN Publishing, and yesterday we just finished our Kickstarter for Presents for Goblins, which is a festive resources for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and that went really well. And we've managed to fulfill all of the PDFs for that immediately, which has been great. And then the link Bez is putting down now is for Meet Max games, for Reindeer Games. So it's really exciting, because part of my job, we are giving away a free digital board game for Christmas, and it's a reindeer racing game, and you have to kind of negotiate with other people of who you're going to support, who you're going to feed carrots to, who you're going to give puddings to. It's really good fun. You can get it for free if you go to the link there for yourself. But also, I've been working on a project which raises money for charity for this. So if you like the game, you as a family and individual can go and donate money if you'd like to, or you don't have to, because not everybody has the money to in 2020. But we've been working with corporate companies to get them to donate money to charity. So I've been hosting free kind of corporate holiday parties using the Reindeer Games. We've managed to raise just shy of £2,500 doing that this week, which is fantastic. And the charity is to get tablets and laptops to children who come from kind of disadvantaged backgrounds and wouldn't be able to study from home during the pandemic without them. So it's a really nice children's charity we're supporting. So that's been my wins for the week, raising money for charity via Reindeer Games.
That does sound super awesome, and
it is fun, and it's got reindeers in it. Do you not just love it?
And yeah,
reindeers of a new sheep.
What?
Reindeers of a new sheep.
Okay.
No? All right.
This is the board games. Why not? Yes. So join the Reindeer Games. Yeah.
I do want to say a quick hello to Alex and Xate, who I didn't properly give a hello to. It's lovely to see you both in the chat, and anyone who might be lurking or watching this after the fact. And If you have any recent highlights that you would like to share, please share them if you're watching live. If you're watching after the fact, feel free to write them in the comments. And if you're a bit too shy, then, you know, maybe just take a few moments to appreciate what have you enjoyed, whether it's the togetherness with people playing games, whether it's the success of your friends or a new game that you're developing, or whatever. And let's go, for the moment, move on to a brilliant thing. Brilliant thing. What's the little thing which is brilliant? And I would like to talk about opinions. Now, why are opinions brilliant? I think that opinions are brilliant because, you know, they tell you something about each other. And if I'm like, hey, this is my game, what do you think of it? You know, firstly, if enough people, tying into the whole notion of playtesting, if a bunch of people tell you what they think, then, you know, opinions are kind of what makes something worth something, because ultimately, if you are just making a game that's good, like, yes, good is a subjective thing, but it needs to be good in the opinion of someone. And what you're ultimately trying to do is to try to satisfy the opinion of at least some people. And so that's, you know, what it's all about. And so that's what I'm going to say. Yeah, opinions are kind of what matters, because we are humans and we're kind of trying to make things for other humans. So the opinion of other humans matters. Now, in your opinion, why do opinions matter? And let me shuffle up the people a little bit, so we can. So Jessica, Hancock, why do opinions matter?
Why do opinions matter? Because it's a good way to get to know people, I guess. You know, it's hearing someone's point of view being different from yours is always interesting, because we all come to different conclusions on things based on the life we've had before and things we've experienced. And I think a really great thing is changing your opinion based on new information. So I might have an idea about something, and then if somebody comes and brings me some new information about something I didn't know, that will inform the information I have, and maybe I've learned something new. So and so I think that's a really important thing, because I think sometimes people think changing your opinion is a sign of weakness, but I think it's a sign of intelligence and strength, that you're taking on new information and adapting your knowledge based on that.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like that, Beth? Yeah. You agreed.
Janice.
Not a huge amount to add. I mean, opinions are great because they challenge you, don't they? They make you stop and think rather than just doing what you think is right. It's a way to say, oh, wait a minute, maybe I haven't thought about that. And as Jessica says, changing your opinion isn't a weakness. It can take quite a lot of strength to admit that maybe you were wrong. Maybe if your opinion is one thing, but 6 other people come with the same opinion that's different to yours, maybe your thinking is not necessarily. It's not necessarily right or wrong, but it's not the best way. Maybe you should really be considering those and incorporating other ideas in. So, yeah, it's a great way to challenge yourself, to, I guess, even develop yourself in sort of understanding where your limitations are and be willing to change.
Yeah, like opinions are relevant, so you know your audience as well, if you're talking to the right people, if it's actually the right direction. Having people disagreeing with you is normal, but if you see that there is no way that you couldn't be wrong, it's good to know if you're looking to the right opinions as well. So it's relevant to make a filter out of the opinions, because what can happen is that maybe you're listening to the wrong opinions, and then you are thinking that what you are doing is not good enough, but it turns out that maybe you were listening to the wrong people. So listening to as many opinions as you can help you, like, to figure out what you're doing, who you are, what your beliefs are, and also finding your group and make you bond to people.
You've really put us on the spot, haven't you, Bez? It's a really nice one. I think I agree with the comments that have been said earlier. I think that opinions define who you are, along with your actions, obviously. So they define who you are and what you stand for. In a way, it's your personality, which is defined a lot by how that personality is reflected from other people. And of course, changing opinions is refreshing. People can challenge your opinions and make you reflect on your opinions, and that's particularly important, I think, when we're designing games and when we're interacting with playtesters. We need to have other people to say, you know what, you thought that was a good idea, but it really isn't a good idea, and this is why. And if you can change your opinion, you're going to end up with a much better game. So trying to relate that to games, particularly indirectly.
No, I really like that. And I see that we've already got I didn't actually see it, but we've already got a special question for our questionably quick questions section. Talking about highlights, going back a little bit, Sate did manage to fix the issues on her bike yesterday and went for a ride and had a lot of fun. So congratulations, and I hope that it aids you and continues to be a valuable thing in your life. Now, you knew what the next section was if you've ever watched this before, and of course the next section is the questionably quick questions. Now, going round, the first question I always like to ask is, where exactly are you and what time is it? Here I am. I'm happy to publicly reveal that I am in N15, which is a bit north of Finsbury Park, and I'm in my home. And yeah, it is 10:22. Moving ground.
I am in Bournemouth, UK, specifically on the second floor of my house in my study, and it is 10:22.
I am near Southampton, again in the UK, so it's 10:22, and I'm in what was meant to be the guest room and is now my study. And a mess.
Well, I'm not in UK. I'm in Berlin, and it's 11:22, and I'm in my living room in Neukölln.
It's 3:00 in the afternoon on the 14th of July, 1967, and I'm in a cave in the Dordogne examining some cave paintings. You can't see that in the background because I've got a special background picture to cover the fact that I am actually not here.
Well, backgrounds can be deceiving. I mean, I'm not actually racing reindeer in my office right now. So,
I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed.
Okay, I will. So, first question: what is your most controversial opinion? And yeah, if I have to answer this myself, oh, wow, this is a hard one, isn't it? I almost wish. Does anyone have something that they would like to shout out first?
I don't like turkey at Christmas. There you go.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's a controversial opinion, but it's the only thing I can think of. I prefer not to have turkey at Christmas, yeah.
Well, I like sprouts. There you go. That's controversial.
Is that controversial? I also like sprouts.
Apparently, it is in
I
my
like
family.
sprouts.
I love them. Yeah, I have them with
At least 3 people here like sprouts.
Yeah, oh, that's
Okay.
great. It's not controversial. But then again, sprouts. A lot of my family like sprouts because we tend to have bacon with them, and that's cheating, really.
That's what I do as well. Yeah,
you see, that is cheating. You have to like, sprouts as sprouts.
Yeah, but the sprouts are the main part. That's just the garnish around it,
Well, I drink pure tonic water, and many people judge me for it.
Oh, I do that too.
I think it's a crime somewhere because I got judged every time.
The only controversial opinions I can think of require a lot of context, and like a TED talk afterwards to back it up without offending anybody. So I won't go into it here because we don't have time to get into it. So
that is fair.
I do
And
have a controversial opinion actually, and that
Okay.
is I actually do quite like Monopoly.
Okay.
I actually think it's not a terrible
that is
game.
very controversial.
I know
yeah.
it's
On
mad,
a
isn't
board
it?
on a board game stream,
Yeah,
you're going to say
I
that.
know. I
Watch
actually
the
do.
comments. It's going to be wildfire now.
I know. I've gone and done it, haven't I? Yeah.
I would give Monopoly
I would agree with
4
Adam
out of
as
10.
well.
I like my copy of Monopoly. I've got it's like a 1922 version in an old Quality Streets tin that my nan bought for me. That's some sort of fate. So, I've never not played it in a long, long time, but I like my copy of Monopoly that I have. So lots of good memories.
I was still struggling to think of anything, honestly. Like, yeah, I honestly can't think of anything. I feel like I just I'm sorry, I'm going to skip this question and set the precedent that, if people want to skip the questions, they can. I think people should be allowed to skip. I guess, okay, you know what? I'm going to make the slightly controversial opinion that I'm going to agree with Michael on the whole thing of, yeah, people should do more abandoning games. Like, people should be more ready to stop playing a game and just say, yeah, let's just stop this game. And it doesn't mean it's a bad game. It doesn't mean it's a bad crowd. It's just not the best fit. Apparently,
I agree. I agree with that. Actually, can I just say, because we've had recent experience where the game was not being fun at all. So why continue? Just stop and do something else. I think that's if a game's not fun, why would you keep playing it? Okay, there may be a social pressure to keep playing, but just stop and do something better.
That makes a lot of, yeah, I mean, I guess I was about to say it makes a lot of sense, but that's just, yeah. If you want to hear more about that, Michael and I did an episode on it. So in the 100s or 200s, I can't remember. It was, yeah, other people agree with abandoning games. Apparently, we're just not controversial enough. But controversy for the sake of controversy, I'm going to say it's not a great thing. And I'm going to say that people work too hard to be controversial. There you go. That is my possibly controversial opinion. Or maybe it won't be controversial at all because maybe everyone will agree with it all over again. But let me ask, what was the last game you played for pleasure? Janice?
Yeah, that was Sherlock at the weekend. So Sherlock Consulting Detective. So that was that's the last one I played.
Race for the Galaxy online at the Consequences Monday night thing. Actually, yeah.
I played FTL online. It's a strategy game. I love it.
I played This War of Mine on Sunday, which I've been playing a lot in lockdown because it's a really good solo game. So I'm very cheery theme as well.
And my last game played was Paull, which I played with McCall because Chris wanted to bow out of the evening, so he played a 2-player game. And we managed to get 11 points, which is, according to my past self, brilliant. So we were happy about that. Which game are you mainly focused on right now in terms of production or whatever? And those who know me will know that it's Categorical, that is the one. But also, actually, you know what? No. My number one priority for at least the next few weeks isn't Categorical. It's a game from the L-Deck design competition.
I'm focusing. I haven't named it yet. I'm using a working title of Punching Pandas because I think it kind of rhymes and it's quite interesting. But yeah, so it's a twist on an old traditional card game which is competitive, but I've made it into a cooperative version and making it work better at 2 players and solo variant and that sort of thing. So it's quite an interesting one, a bit different to what I've normally done. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. And Assembly looking like it's going to go out of print soon-ish. So looking at whether to do a reprint for that or not.
My main focus is still on Kingmaker, which is, you know, a big project. But I'm also doing a kind of medieval exploration cooperative game called Snails and Grails with Rob Harper and Dave Mortimer. And I am getting involved in Tony Bordel's The Day of the Triffids game, which is based on a game I did a long while ago. So lots happening, but mainly Kingmaker. Let's be quite honest, mainly Kingmaker.
Being working mainly on Dogo Dash, yeah, like the whole production things and fulfillment. Also, apparently, this battleship game, there has no name yet, that I just started working on. And my Jesus the Woman is still on hold, but it's something that I really want to get back for next year. But it's yeah, on my pile of to do.
So as I mentioned before, the main thing is on Reindeer Games, and the link is there if you would like to download this digital board game for free. So we've had it previously for kind of corporate customers, but we've worked on making it for 3 to 10 players, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible for people to remotely play. So you just go on your browser and log into it, and we're looking to have that available next week. So if you go to the link I said and sign up for your details, as soon as it's available for the public, I will send you your profile and link so you can play for free over the holidays with your family.
Now, moving towards the topic, although if people want to throw in, we might have time for 1 or 2 more questions from the audience that are completely tangential. Out of everything that you're working on, what is the last game that you tested? And more specifically, what were you trying to discover? And personally, the last game that I tested was Bidel. It was the first time we'd actually played it 4-player, and I was purely trying to work out how good it is as a 4-player game. And so, yeah, that was me.
I tend to try and work on one project at a time, otherwise it just do too little on each of them. So it's the same one. So that my working title, Pinching Pandas, and I was looking at the solo version. So trying to get it to be fun solo. I've not cracked it on the solo yet, but I'm happy with the 2 to 4 version.
My last playtest should have been the 2-player Kingmaker thing that I'm supposed to be working on, but actually wasn't. It was the 5-player revised Kingmaker that I've been doing. So that's a version of Kingmaker which is aimed at coming in at 30 minutes plus 30 minutes per player, rather than the 6 to 8 hours of the normal Kingmaker. So, but I'm supposed to be doing the 2. I know I'm supposed to be doing the 2-player version, but you know, things happen.
I playtested the rule sheet of Dogo Dash because the text was garbage before, and now I have people helping me to make it look decent. And I'm very happy with the results. Now people can play it without having someone explaining. They can just read and start playing correctly. But yeah, this was something that costed me a lot of testing and testing and testing.
The last one was Reindeer Games, again, for me. We were testing how long, so the game is very simple, but it has 2 kind of key actions that you do. But during that time, you need to kind of negotiate and strategize with other players. And we're trying to work out how much time do people need to do that in the game. And it's very difficult because different players do different things, and we have to set it a fixed time for the game to kind of progress. So we've just been playing with different amounts of time for that, and if it feels like too much or too little.
Now, we've talked about games that we've tested for ourselves, but what about other people's games that we might have tested? So I'd like to say, what was the last game that you tested of someone else? And feel free to share any details. So, yeah, because of my situation, because the free people who are basically in my bubble aren't game designers, let's say, and I don't really enjoy playing games online. But I did play a 2-player game with someone, I can't even remember, I think it was called like Dojo. I'm not actually getting this name wrong. It's not like Dogo Dash and I'm mispronouncing it or anything. It was like a 2-player dojo game. We did it on Tabletop Simulator, and it was a really nice game. It kind of reminds me of Province, in which you're getting lots of special abilities and there's a lot to ponder and you're moving these things. No, it wasn't Dojo Dash either. But yeah, sorry for my terrible memory, but it's actually been a few months, I want to say, since I tested something of someone else's, and in a way I quite miss that. How about everyone else?
To be perfectly honest, I struggle to find time to test my games and play games. We have 2 small children running around, which is why I tend to really do very short games, sort of 20-minute ones. The last thing I guess I did would be just pre-lockdown. It wasn't testing, but we was just planning to try and start up a playtesting meetup, and I sort of chatted with another game designer, Snaggle Games, I think it was. It was definitely Snaggle and something games. And we just sort of had a chat about the process and that side of things, rather than necessarily testing a game. But I guess it's all part of the same. It's all helping each other, and it's all talking about game design and publishing. So yeah, Snaggle Games or Snaggle Plus Games, something like that.
I haven't been doing a lot of playing of other people's games. The last one that I play tested was one of Dave Neal's games for 2 to 6-year-olds. He's got a series of kind of discovery exploration games for those younger age groups, which I play with Beth, my granddaughter. So I've played 2 of the scenarios of that. Simple, straightforward card games where the adult is leading the child through that process of matching shapes and looking at pictures, choosing where to explore and matching shapes and solving the riddle. And I've got another one of those still to print out, so I've got some more fun to do. In fact, I might do that this afternoon and then play it tomorrow.
Lovely.
I playtested a game called Grafito. It's from a Brazilian designer, and I've been playing playing games from Brazilian designers. Like, we are a group of people that are making games, and then we test each other's games. And I'm very happy that Grafito just signed. It's going to be published in Brazil and hopefully internationally soon. But it's a game about graffiti and hip hop culture in the context of the Black culture in Brazil. It's a very nice game.
I haven't been doing a huge amount of playtesting outside work as well. I don't know if it counts, but I used to work for Alicat Games for Meet Max Games, and so my last playtesting was probably for them. But I think that was technically when I was still working for them. But it was their upcoming game, Tinner's Trail. They're doing an update on that game by Martin Wallace, which is coming to Kickstarter in January. So that was fun to playtest, because we tried to add a 5th player and change a few bits and pieces to it that we had problems with the game before. So that was an interesting process to watch.
And one final question from our audience, which is, what is your favourite or least favourite cracker joke? I was actually really impressed. I think people might know L.A. Dix, who made the Christmas cracker, which is over there. And in this little box, you get all sorts of things. For example, what is... I'm terrible. Yeah, I'm going to check out one of these things. And if people actually have a better memory of me, then please shout out your favourite or least favourite cracker joke.
I can tell you one that I remember, but it's not a cracker joke, it's a Google joke when you ask, hey, I won't say it, tell me a joke. And it's, what did one flag say to the other flag? Nothing, they just waved. Well, there you go. That's the one I remember, except my daughter decided to mix it up a bit because there was a cookie joke as well. I said, what did one cookie say to the other cookie? Nothing, they just waved. Which doesn't quite work quite as well, but it's probably slightly more funny.
I love it when kids do that. They just kind of half get there, but not all the way over the line. I've just messaged my other half to tell me a bad joke because they are a walking bad joke factory. Whichever one they're recently going to say, that'll be the worst one. So I just messaged him and said, "Oh, tell us a joke." So when it comes back to it, I will update you on what they said.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Oh, damn! You've heard it.
Oh, I like that one. I didn't think that's bad. That's quite clever. That's playing with expectation. That's.
I think that's a Rick. I think that's a Rick Mail joke, actually.
Yeah,
Or
that's not
it
a
might be.
joke.
No,
Getting
I can't.
meta.
Yeah.
What do you call an imp that is being rushed to hospital?
Impatient.
Yes, nice work.
Oh my gosh, this is just like my life though, just being with my other half, so it's kind of painful.
Okay, Tali, you've not said a joke.
I don't have kids. I have no idea how those jokes work. I think it's the language barrier as well. I didn't learn many of them. So.
I think the point is they don't work, Telly. That's the major point of them.
Maybe you can vote on the worst joke.
And hello, board games, not boring games. Think I was watching you last night playing Mage Knight. It's lovely to have you over. But yeah, we're just talking about bad jokes before we get to the main topic. And talking about what Jess mentioned of kids half getting it, there is a joke of how many legs does a horse have? 6. It's got 4 legs in the front and 2 legs at the back. And, because 4 legs, F-O-R-E, like 4 legs. But as a kid, I was like, how many? It's got 4 legs in the front and 4 legs in the back. It's got 8 legs. Ha 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 ha. And yeah, I just didn't understand the meaning of the word 4 legs. So yeah.
Yeah, kids tell great jokes. My brother's first joke was there's a banana on the road running off to Scotland. That's it. That's the whole joke. And he laughed for hours about that.
It's nice, nicely surreal. Nicely surreal.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's the end of the show. We can't top that.
I'll tell my brother his first joke bombed so hard. He thought it was hilarious. He had a great time with it.
Now, as we get into the main topic, feel free to comment, ask questions, follow. We are, of course, talking about supporting playtesters with all these wonderful people. And yeah, basically, we were inspired very much by a chat with Janice some time ago where we talked about supporting those people that we work with. And we said, well, quite often in, the board games industry, you might not actually be working with that many, especially if you're an indie game designer. But let's think about playtesters. Do we actually think enough about why people are playtesting and what their motivations are? And that's what I would like everyone to think about a wee bit. Jess has one more joke.
Yes, my other half messaged me back, and the joke is, a man walks into a bar. Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one laughed. I'll tell him. Right, I'll
Okay.
just message him saying no one.
I'm sorry. So yeah, this is not about how to be a good playtester. This is not about how to gather info within a playtest. This is about how to take care of the playtesters and make it an enjoyable and valuable experience. So what is playtesting? I would suggest that playtesting is when something is being played. It could be by yourself, it could be by other people, it could even be in your mind for the purpose of gaining some sort of information about the game. Going round quickly, clockwise, do you agree, disagree, have anything else to add?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll let someone else have a chance to say something.
It's getting somebody else's understanding of what you think the game's about. So and I think that's quite key. Sorry, you may have an idea about what the game is about, and until you present it to somebody else, it's going back to our opinions again. You don't really know how it's going to be received. So it's playtesting is all about gaining an understanding of what you are designing from the perspective of another person. I mean, I always use Kingmaker as a classic example. Kingmaker was originally designed as primarily a political game because it was back in the days of diplomacy. It was designed as a largely political with some military bits. A lot of people play Kingmaker as a pure military game, which kind of misses quite a lot of the point. So how do you put that across to playtesters? That's a difficult one.
Yeah, you said everything, because for me, it's also like playtesting is like not only to get the information, but to get the reaction of the people to the game you're making. And yeah, like in the moment that the reaction is relevant enough that we make changes in the game, it's playtesting.
I think sometimes as well, if you're really close to a project, you won't see things and you'll miss really obvious things. So somebody that's just a few steps back from the project can really easily say, oh, why is it like this? Have you not thought about doing it like that? Which, because you're so close to the project, you would never have thought of. So exactly as Alan said, it's different opinions and people's different perspectives. Sometimes you benefit from other people's, kind of views and experience on it, but because you're too close to a project, you wouldn't see by yourself.
I think that I agree with everyone, and certainly for the purposes of this talk, we're going to be focusing on playtesting with other people, using other people to gain that information. I think that people have shared a lot of reason why it's so important about seeing those reactions, gathering the data. Yes, I mean, sometimes you're playtesting just to see, okay, what's a typical length of a game? And that might be, okay, you keep track of it when the rules on it are in a stable sense. And if it is a game that has a fair, maybe you play Kitty Cataclysm 100 times and you're like, okay, out of 100 times, the longest ever game was 19 minutes, which is exceptionally long with people who, but sometimes it's like, okay, what are people enjoying about it? What are people not enjoying about it? How can people work? And it's gathering all sorts of information, whether that information is subjective or objective. But I would like to also point out that solo playtesting on your own is incredibly valuable. But that's, how people react is information, sure. And but there's, as we say, like there's some sorts of information that we're going to potentially collate and just put into a spreadsheet and say, okay, what was the most powerful thing? Which faction won the most times? Let's work out which one's more powerful. And sometimes having a bit of a ponder about it is the way to go, but sometimes you need to check in with other people's feelings or the real empirical evidence. But we are mainly talking about when you're involving other people. So talking about bringing people together with it, do you playtest other people's things? And I understand, Janice, you might not have the time at all, but if you have ever done it, why do you do it?
I try to do it when I sort of the UK Games Expo, goes to the playtest areas. When I'm there, I do try to do something when I can, and I do it because it's nice to help other people. It's great to give feedback and see what's doing. It's it's exciting to see something new, something different that you've not seen before, and you can see some really unique things and the sort of things that wouldn't necessarily see the light of day in any other areas. And I guess as thirdly, it's also because it's really great from a research perspective, from a game designer, just to see the variety of games and things out there that you see. As I said, it's just a lot of things that you wouldn't see the light of day through your general published channels that you can see in a playtest area, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with everything Janice said there. A lot of my friends are game designers, so I'm playtesting to kind of help them, you know, give them feedback on stuff. But also it's just exciting sometimes to be involved in a game. If there's a game in development that you're excited about, getting to play it is really fun. Like there's a game, Eternal Palace, which Alley Cat Games is bringing out next year, sometime in the spring, to Kickstarter. I just really love that game. So I love playtesting it and going back and seeing how it changes. And I just like being involved as well. I think playtesting is a way for board game fans and the community to be involved in games and feel some sort of ownership in it. So I think it's a really nice opportunity to just engage with something you like, really.
And even though you're no longer working for them, you're still going to stay involved.
Yeah, they have a playtest channel, actually. If you go to alleycatgames.com and you want to be in their playtesting group, they have a channel on Discord, and when they're playtesting, they put a message in saying, hey, is anybody free? So yeah, so I'm still in that group. So I will jump in and playtest games. Yeah.
I love playtesting games. I learn from the games that I'm playing, and I have fun mostly. I have also experienced not so fun games being a tester, but it's also good to know, like, and to talk to the author and see their point and understand the decision. So for me, it's like an exchange, not only like an activity that I'm passive there, like I play the game and I just say whatever. I'm also actively asking questions, but this is my way of playtesting, like, why is this like that? And how can I do something differently, or how would it be strategically? So I love this interaction, and I'm lucky I have many friends that are making games, so I have the opportunity of playing many cool games.
Yeah, my view on a lot of the playtesting I do is that if I playtest somebody else's game, then they might playtest mine, which is just quite selfish in a way. I find it very useful to explore how other people do the playtesting. How structured are they, or how unstructured are they? That is very helpful, because you learn a lot more about how to do playtesting. And I think, I mean, primarily playtesting other people's games is all about community. So I used to, well, when it was running, obviously, because it's not face to face, I used to go to the Playtest Cambridge group, and we Charlie and I run the used to, when we could meet, used to run these kind of like twice yearly designer days where we'd just get together and playtest each other's games. So that I think that community helps, because it means that you're constantly engaged with other, well, in my case, with other designers and sometimes other playtesters who aren't designers as well. And that constant exchange of ideas and opinions and information is really, really helpful for developing the whole game design professionalism, I think, probably.
Yeah, we've really got to step up in a lot of ways. And of course, in the chat, feel free to let us know if you playtest, why, or if you don't, why not? And is there any other reasons that anyone can think of that people might want to playtest? Feel free to jump in, everyone on screen. And I think that's everything, as far as I can tell, has been covered. So unless anyone has anything more to say? Okay, one thing that I would like to mention is, obviously there is a difference between virtual playtesting and real-life playtesting, and also being aware that certain types of playtesting are more or less work than others. And for sure, part of the reason that I personally playtest, I'm not going to lie, a lot of it is to do with reciprocation, which is, as Alan says, feels kind of selfish. But the last one I did was purely just because it was someone saying, hey, I'm about to get to my 50th playtest. I want to do something special. Are you up for it? And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm curious. Let's jump in and see what's going on. And then we played a thing on via my Discord and Tabletop Simulator. And so that was, and yeah, sometimes you want to support someone. Sometimes it's like, yeah, it's a thing to do if you don't have a family or whatever. But before Janice has to go in 5 minutes, I want to broach a question which might take us the rest of the 2 hours, which is, should playtesters be paid? I know that should is a strong word, but first thoughts, Janice.
I think there are pros and cons to paying. Yes, you have the expectation, you know that they are going to complete it because they are a paid employee, because then there's a contract between you. You know they're going to write it the way you want to do it. However, are they just giving you feedback because you're paying them? And there's always that thing that comes in there. If someone's doing it for the love of testing and they give you feedback, that feedback is probably very, very genuine, because they either have a passion, positive or negative, for what you're doing. And that's not to say that people shouldn't be remunerated. It's just that balance and understanding and balancing that between the two. And yeah, there's 2 ways to do it. But in either way, I think the most important thing is to value the feedback you get. And if you're just doing playtesting to go through the motions, to do playtesting because that's what you should do and that's what everyone tells you should do, but you don't listen to that feedback, whether you're paying someone or not, makes no difference. You've got to, I think the value feedback is number one, and whether they paid or not is secondary to that, because you've got to value it. And the person playtesting, if you're paying them or not, if you're not valuing their feedback, their motivation is going to go down, whatever they're doing, because they're not feeling like a valued member of the team. And if it's having no influence on the game whatsoever, and you're not responding back as to why you are or aren't taking on suggestions, again, that's a lack of value of the person. So I think valuing the playtester is number one. Paying, it's hard to say. I think with a community where it's so much is done and based on volunteering, and with indie publishers in particular, you have such small margins on everything, it becomes much harder. But that's not to say that someone's time isn't worthless. So I would say that in terms of paying someone to do playtesting, it's, I think, if you're paying someone to develop the game, so if you're expecting them to help you develop the game, and so they're more in a developer role, not the designer and not so much the playtester, because the developers are kind of doing lots of playtesting. Yes, I'd say that's definitely a paid position, because you're actually adding a lot of value into the game. And playtesters are adding value as well, but they're much more discreet, and it's sort of over a larger area, if that kind of makes sense. No, it's a really tough one. It's like a yes and a no, and then there's, if everyone started playing playtesters, would all the indie publishers disappear? Would there be that variety of games still there? Because it's just like at the moment with advertising, it's shifted a lot now that you have to pay for all the advertising to get something kickstarted and sorted, which is making the barrier to entry much higher for things to get funded. And if everyone had to play playtesters, would we have all those wonderful indie games out there? And so if you're a big publisher and you've got the money, yeah, you just remunerate them in some way. If you're a small one which is struggling to make ends meet, you rely on those volunteers. So it almost depends on your ability to pay. So yeah, it's a tough one.
You're muted, Bez.
Thank you. It's definitely a difficult one. And I'd like to explore this. We've got Jess back. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Sorry, Janice, just because you have to go.
I'll stay for another 5 minutes or so. So I would like to hear someone else's as well. And
I was going to say, it almost makes sense to before you go, ask you to kind of give your top few tips of how you personally ensure that people feel validated, ensure that people are feeling supported and rewarded, and then we'll kind of wheel back to all the questions, if that's okay.
Yeah. So I generally use a form for feedback, so a Google form, which is very structured, so it's not completely free form. I also welcome emails as well. But anyone that takes the time to do something more than just the tick boxes and makes some sort of valid suggestion, if they've made the time to do that, I make the time to write back to them and tell them thank you for the feedback, what my consideration and what I'm going to do about it. So that's how I try to make people feel valued. If they've made the time for me, I make the time for them. Anyone who playtests, they automatically get a note in the rules as well. So they get their name to say, hey, this person helped make this game become a reality. And so it's not sort of hidden behind a wall, it's out there, and they get some public recognition that they were, I guess, partly instrumental in making the game become a reality. And so, yeah, I think it's about spending the time with them and keeping communicating with them, giving them slightly early access to stuff and making sure that they hear things before everyone else so that they feel, again, that valued and I guess that they're a bit more special. And just always happy to just sort of chat on DMs things through or email and take that extra time rather than just absorbing everything. I try to give something back to them as well.
That makes a lot of sense. And so I'll let you go. I'll keep you in the background so you can listen to everyone else. But before you have to go, how would you like people to find out? And is there anything else that you would like to say on the topic?
I guess if anyone's interested in playtesting our latest game, I'm hoping to get files sent out before Christmas. So if you go to our website, rengames.co.uk, check out the blog. There's links there to find out how to do it. It's currently 2 to 4 players, but there will be a solo variant probably early in the new year. But you can start whenever you're ready. And if you're only waiting for the solo, that doesn't mean don't sign up now. We'll just wait until the solo version comes out. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for everyone. And I will continue trying to listen. But as I said to Bez, I started a new job and I got a lot more embedded much more quickly than I expected. And we have Christmas deadlines because the developers don't celebrate Christmas. So I've got to line up enough work to keep them busy for 2 weeks, which is an interesting challenge.
Can you tell us anything about this new job? Or
it's actually really quite exciting. It's a pre-seed startup. So if anyone knows what that is, it's basically a startup before it's got investors. So it's looking at revolutionizing temporary recruitment and bringing the fees down so that the workers get more money. The employers pay less because it removes the middleman, because it's all AI matched and it's not machine learning. So it hasn't had any bias, and it's sort of like an unbiased recruitment. It's based purely on your experience, your skills, how well you performed on the other jobs on the platform. And it's trying to share the saving between giving the employer a lower cost, the worker more money, and enough for us to keep running the platform and a better profit to, I guess, as all companies are, because it's not for profit, but ultimately everyone wins. So that's the vision. And it's really exciting. So I'm going to design apps and go through user experience and that side of things. It's fantastic.
That does sound wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining, and we'll obviously carry on for a bit, but all the best with the new job.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so same question to everyone else. Like, this whole notion of paying people, of remunerating people financially, I mean, it's a big topic, obviously, and I don't want this to take over the entire remainder of the time, although it is possibly something that we should be coming back to in the future. But what do you think, Tally? Should playtesters be paid financially?
I think Janice put it very good when she said that it's a bit different. I work as a playtester as well. Like besides making playtesting for passion, I make playtesting for money as a freelancer, specifically with digital games. And it's different because when I'm playtesting for money, I'm looking for flaws. I'm not having fun. I'm just looking for flaws in the game. And when I'm playtesting for passion, I'm playing the game. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying the experience. So when you pay a playtester, you want something else from them. You want them to find the flaws of your game and not exactly to give a feedback how they feel as players. And this is something different for me, in my opinion. When I playtest Dogo, for example, I know that the time of the people is valuable. So I'm not saying that it's for free, so it's your problem. So I always try, like when it was possible, when we could meet, to give drinks and snacks, maybe make some a cake, like bake something for them, make the environment pleasant, like everything is clean, so they don't have problems. Like the environment is like cozy, so they can feel like home. And also I take care that they are having fun in the situation, and not only like I'm taking advantage of them being curious about my game and just play my game and say bye. I'm also like, some people are not comfortable like writing down, so I would say you can just say here your feedback and I will record this, and then I take notes afterwards. Take your contact if you want or not. So just make it very transparent and clear. Like my intention here is that you play the game and tell me what you think. And then I may usually make a form, but I try to make it as easy as possible for them, so they don't feel like I'm working for this girl. Like, no, they are enjoying the whole experience from beginning to end. That's how I try. With online, it's a bit more difficult because I don't have this possibility of giving them drinks and snacks and bake a cake. So what I do is I usually am talking to them and like making silly jokes, being very competitive, trying to make the experience of playing the game more fun, and also be able to share information with them about the game development and like things that you're usually not seeing when the games are done. So they have access to like special information, special graphics. So to make the whole testing thing not only like play my game, but also like be part of it, be part of my community, join me.
We're a very small company. We don't pay ourselves, so it's actually never really occurred to me to pay playtesters with money, because well, I mean, to be honest, it would make our games unviable, probably, depending on how much that money was. And I'm not sure what level of remuneration would be acceptable or appropriate. And also, a lot of our playtesters state at the front that they don't want to be paid for this. It's not something that they think of as a job. They're doing it because they want to help. For Kingmaker, for example, a lot of our playtesters are doing it because they love playing Kingmaker and they want to be involved in this community that's redeveloping the game. On the other hand, if a playtester has had a significant contribution, a significant amount of time, we will pretty much invariably give them a copy of the game. And there might be some special things that we do occasionally for people, like because we occasionally do t-shirts for our company. Like, I'm wearing one today. Surprised I get a t-shirt. We might occasionally, give away some merchandise, but in terms of paying, we wouldn't be able to afford. I mean, I hope it doesn't become a kind of regular, normal thing. And I honestly don't know if larger companies pay playtesters either. I don't know. They may do, but we certainly wouldn't be able to afford it.
First of all, apologies for my tech issues before. Am I coming through okay now? Good. Yeah, apologies for that. Yeah, moving on from what everybody said, I think playing for playtesters is something I'm not used to as well. It's always been a community-driven thing, something that people are doing to exactly like Alan said, because they love the game and they want to be part of it. And I wonder if paying for playtesters is more on the game's development side of things, because I can imagine you'd want to play a playtester because their opinion or value has more weight. So maybe they themselves are a games designer, so they're going to spot those kind of flaws and things. Whereas sometimes you want to just playtest with the general public and just see that side of things. So I think they're kind of different levels of playtesting. And I wonder if paying for playtesters, experience, things like that almost goes into games development sort of area. I don't know.
It's a difficult one because on the one hand, I agree that if we didn't have voluntary labour, and it's not limited to playtesting, of course, the question of how we remunerate people, how we make people feel supported, can also be extended to, volunteers at conventions. And I've never paid with actual cash my volunteers at conventions. What I've always tried to do is to make it so that if people do want to join up, they won't be out of pocket necessarily. So I will cover their accommodation at the convention. I will give them a whole bunch of games. So it's like, okay, well, you came over to this convention. Of course, you want to go away with some games. Hey, here's some games from other publishers, which I kind of trade for to make it viable. To say, hey, thanks, Lucky Duck Games for giving me like 12 copies of things to give to my volunteers, where I gave them 12 copies of my games and they traded on it with a one-to-one basis, even though theirs are a bit pricier than mine, let's be honest. And it's like, Vince was like, oh, it's a lovely and that's the point. It's like kind of finding these things ahead of time, trying to work out, okay, make sure everyone's fed, make sure everyone has these breaks. But at the same time, when you've got Asmodee who are able to afford people to be volunteers, I think that's great. And I would like to make it the case that if people want to do that, if people are financially able to pay people, that they do. I mean, I know that when you asked Alan whether the bigger companies pay, I know that Hasbro, they do pay a small amount to people who come for proper blind playtesting. And Hub Games, I assume Michael I'm trying to remember. I know Michael works for Hub Games right now. But I assume this is exclusively for Hub Games that Michael's talking. And hello, Michael. But yeah, they pay for volunteers at the booth. And if you go to Hasbro, they will say, okay, here's some amount of money. And Mark Rosewater has been talking about how after they've playtested, let's say, Amonkhet, the latest Magic the Gathering set, they'll say, okay, now would you like to have your $50 that you are getting, or would you like to instead get $20 plus $100 worth of product? And they will be able to make that choice. And part of that is actually to say, is this product even something that people would want? And that's like the ultimate thing, because they are literally getting that money anyway. And yeah. But yeah, I haven't. It's a difficult thing financially, and for sure, as Janice was saying earlier, we want to remind people that our time is worth something, and I think that I know that one company that at least two of us have worked for put up a thing recently where they were saying, hey, can you do some help for a few months, and this might lead to a full-time position. And a few people, I would almost argue justifiably, said, hey, this isn't cool, like this whole work for exposure, this work for experience, because it might lead to something. And I think that that sort of, if it's something that someone's doing, it has to be okay, you're doing this as a favor. I don't know. I have a lot of mixed opinions. Does anyone, Alan?
Yeah, I think there's a very big difference between somebody who is working on a stand and somebody who's playtesting. Working on a stand, I mean, although I think we have occasionally had volunteers who are friends of ours who said, "Oh, very happy to come along and help you on the stand." That's fine. I have no problem with that. But in the past, we have where we've had a major release, and we wanted to have extra people who are going to teach people the games. We pay people for the stand, because working on somebody's stand in that way, where they're actually teaching people the games, they are working for us, and I think they need to be paid. Similarly, I would kind of say that if somebody is doing a major piece of development, not just playtesting, but actually development, that's paid as well in some fashion or other. Playtesting is a bit different, because they are volunteering. It's almost equivalent to somebody who's volunteering to help on your stand. There's no expectation of being paid. And as others have mentioned, paying for playtesting just strongly emphasizes what they might actually do. And on the other hand, if I'm paying somebody to man our stand for us, I will be able to say to them, right, this is what we want you to do. These are your duties. The expectation is that you learn our game and teach that game. I can't do that with a playtester, and I don't want to do that with a playtester either. I'll brief the playtester about what my expectations are when they're playing, but I want them in a lot of cases, I want them primarily to play rather than test. I mean, there are some people who I know will test anyway, and if there's a specific issue I want covered, I might ask all of them. I might ask one or two of them. Could you test this strategy? Even if it's not a strategy you'd like to test the strategy for me. But for playtesting, largely, I want them to play it and enjoy it, because part of what we're testing with playtesting is it enjoyable? Is it something that you want to do? So that's my particular view on that range of issues.
Yeah, I think it is interesting in the games industry, or you get it in a lot of industries that people want to be involved in, where you get internships or work experience for free to gain experience to then get a paid role. And I think it's been discussed before in other mainstream industries, like in marketing and advertising, it happened a lot. It's kind of puts some people at a disadvantage because it's a privilege thing. If you are privileged enough that you have other people to support you, or you're able to support yourself to work for free for somebody, that could be a great opportunity for you. But a lot of people can't afford to work for free. Maybe they have a full-time job and they can't pay their bills. They don't have another way to do that. So the issue with that means that some people that would be really great and really talented won't get the same opportunities as other people, which I think we agree is inherently unfair. But I don't know if playtesting sits in that, because it can be very as and when you want, drop in and out, and generally people aren't playtesting because they're trying to get a career or something like that off it. So I think it's slightly different from that, but I agree with what you're saying, Alan. But if you're asking somebody to work on your stand and you want to tell them what to do and how you want them to do things like that, that's probably different from playtesting. Yeah,
it occurs Umi, that I'm possibly unique here in at least this small group. That
you're completely unique, Bez.
But insofar, specifically in that I have actually paid for playtesters, I don't do that regularly, but have never paid for someone at my stand. The reason for that is because with playtesting, when we were doing the LDEC situation, I wanted to specifically have Layla and Chris to be there. And I wanted them to be there at a specific time, to stay until all the games were tested, to be willing to give the feedback, and basically to treat it like a job. Because I think that playtesting, even if you aren't, even if I'm doing it for reciprocation, if I'm doing anything, I kind of feel like, yes, there is energy and there has to be some value. And from a selfish point of view, what's the reason for me to do it? What's the reason for anyone to do it? Now, we've talked a lot about, okay, someone, I'm actually going to look, someone on Card and Board Game Designers Guild wrote that they have 3 rules. That firstly, they only test games that intrigue them. So they only test games that they know they will enjoy. Secondly, they only test games that it looks like there was effort and thought put into it, and the author is open-minded and enthusiastic about the game and knows what testing and feedback is for. And C, they never want anything for the feedback. Now, this is the words of Roman Andrus, who shared these words in Card and Board Game Designers Guild, which is a lovely Facebook group. But yeah, and Dutch Yoda mentions, like, in the video game industry, it's pretty normal for the big companies to have playtesters as part of the workforce. The smaller indie companies mostly do their own testing. I guess in board games it isn't that different, but I don't know for sure. I mean, for, like, yeah, there are times when, as part of my duties, actually, I mean, even as a developer, you've got to test it and then you do a bit of extra stuff alongside it. Like that, playing through the game is a required part of the job. And if someone were to say, hey, Bez, I want you to develop this game, but I'm not going to pay you for the time that it takes you to play this, and then it's like, no, that's clearly not on. Because frankly, I'm even of the opinion now that I have way more games than I need to play. And unless your game is like, whoa, this is so amazing that it's a privilege to work on. Like, okay, if I was actually collaborating with someone, that's a different situation. If I'm like, I heard about one game that I was willing to playtest purely because that project was it sounded like it was relevant to my lived experience. And then that person, didn't want to have me be part of it, which was, really? You're just saying that it's done, so you don't want any more help? That's probably a bit of a red flag. But sorry to deviate and tangent, but look, going back to the point of paying playtesters, it's, if I want you to treat it like a job, there has to be some remuneration. And I worry that people end up doing this sort of labor because it's expected, in the same way that we might end up being in a unhealthy relationship with a friend, where one of us is doing a lot more emotional labor than the other, and it can sort of border on an abusive relationship. I am almost suggesting that, I'm not going to say that this is common, but there is a potential for there to be an almost abusive relationship where it's expected that you're definitely there and you've got to keep up this commitment, and it gets to be like a serious amount of labor, but then you're not really getting anything for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it comes down to a lot of control and who dictates the terms. So if you're employing somebody, you get to dictate the terms. You say, I will give you this amount of money and you will do these things. Lovely. If somebody's a volunteer and you're asking them to do something for free, they get to dictate the terms. They can say, okay, I'll come and do your game, but I can only do it on these times and I can only do it in this way and I only want to do that. So I think that's what it comes down to, really, for me, in my mind.
I think that's a really good point about dictating of terms and who has that power in that relationship. Any other?
Also, I think that it's important to know what drives the person. If this person is testing the game, like for what reason. And for me, in my case, when I started testing Dash, it was just a piece of paper like this and not serious at all. Like people were not excited about playing the game. They were excited about helping me. So I was selling myself and my game to these people in a way that, hey, I'm new in town, blah, 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 like being completely transparent. So they know that I'm not taking advantage of them. I'm not Havensburger. I'm not Habo. I'm not Hasbro. I don't have money. I'm like just an immigrant here trying to make friends. And it happened that I made a game and I want to test my game. Would you like to join me? And they're like, oh, of course, sure. It's different if I have like a structure company that has the QA area that is designed to find flaws in the game, and also marketing that is designed to find players to the game, and then using playtesting as a marketing tool. So it's a bit different if you are like an individual or an indie developer that only relies on friends and family and people that you know from the internet.
I agree with all that. I think there's the big issue here is the expectations and the relationship. The big issues are the expectations and the relationship on both sides. If I'm working with most of the playtesters that I'm working with, I'm not dictating. I am suggesting these are the things that I would like to test, this is the timing that I've got. For example, I with Kingmaker, I actually have slots which I advertise in advance, so people can just log on to those slots. So I have to have a pool of people who can occupy those slots. Or if I'm doing it face to face, I will arrange it with people, and they'll come around. I think like Tally was saying, they might come around. We'll have a meal and we'll have some fun and stuff, and we'll play test. And so the expectation there is that it shouldn't feel like a job. It shouldn't feel like work for this type of playtesting that I'm doing here. It should be something that we all want to do together, and I would hope to have a longer term relationship with playtesters that enables that to continue, so that there isn't an expectation that we're going to pay them and have a hierarchical relationship in an employment sense, because that would distort the feedback that we get. But this, I think, with a large company, I think somebody like Cosmos or Hasbro or or people who are doing Magic the Gathering and stuff like that, and even then they're not paying a huge amount, but they're paying what from their point of view is a relatively small amount, because they're getting a huge amount of income from these games. We're not. I mean, it's a practical proposition. We're not in the position to do that. I don't think any of us around here are probably in the position to actually to do paying. And I think it goes down to kind of the difference between some of these games that we're testing. I mean, certainly from Surprise Stare's point of view, we're generally doing games for the hobby games market. So we're doing games which will sell a few thousand. We hope they might sell a few tens of thousands if we're lucky. We're not in the situation of a larger company like Hasbro or Cosmos, where if it doesn't sell hundreds of thousands of copies, it's a failure. So in other words, they've got a lot more money behind them. They can afford to spend more money on this kind of thing, and we generally can't. And also, we want to have a direct relationship with our playtesters, and that's part of the value of what we're doing, is to have those relationships and have that community. I'm not saying that large companies haven't got a community, they have, but they are, I was going to say they're kind of more corporate in a very real sense. In other words, they're doing it because that's what their corporation does. We're doing it because that's what we as individuals want to do and are doing. So we're having a much more individual relationship with our playtesters. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that there's definitely a lot more to discuss here. And I think it would be worth expanding the conversation on another day to talk about remuneration, financial remuneration for folk, and volunteer jobs, because I think that Jess made a really good point with talking about, okay, dictating of those terms, but it's also about the flexibility that Alan mentioned with the timetabling of things. Okay, if you've got a flexible game with a different player count, then maybe someone can be like, okay, well, you aren't needed, but if you jump in, then great. Whereas in my situation, it was like, well, you know, I can't just say anyone come here, because I'm in a situation where I can only see a very small number of people because 2020 pandemic. And so, Chris, Layla, I am going to pay you. I want you to be here at a specific time. And so it is, yes, me dictating the terms and being less flexible. But if I were to be, okay, you know what? It's normal times. I'm going to go to the bar every night for this week on a 5 p.m. If you want to join in, then great. If there's just 2 of us, we'll play a 2-player game. If there's 10 of us, we'll play some other games. And, you know, then that sort of flexibility, it's like, hey, well, you know what? I fancied seeing what Bez has come up with. I'll go along and check it out. Or if you don't want to, stay at home. And that sort of flexibility, I would agree, makes a massive difference. But is there anything else that we need to talk about regarding money itself, or before we say, okay, let's talk about that on another day?
I think this is a topic for another day as well, because I think it's really interesting just talking about pay in the games industry and how that works and making a career out of it and things like that. So I think that's kind of a whole topic by itself. So yeah, I think I'll be good to move on and stick with playtesting
maybe
a little bit
multiple
more.
days. So
I think so. I can I just say I'm not sure the video game comparison is very appropriate at the moment, because the video game industry is such a big industry. It's much bigger than
that's a
us.
fair point. And even within the
the
video game
financial
industry,
situation is hugely
you know,
different.
it matters from studio to studio. Like if you are Rockstar Studios working on GTA and all those other games that they make, I used to know, you know, then of course you can have in-house playtesters. If you're someone working on a tiny indie game, maybe you've just got to rely on a few friends, same as in the board games industry.
There certainly are board game companies that have their own in-house playtest teams. Modifius, for example, I know have their own playtest team. I'm not sure whether those people are 100% playtest. They do other things as well, I suspect, but they do have them. That's for sure. So, and they'll be paid. But
so
it depends on on how much
other rewards. If we move on, sorry, Alan, to cut you off. But moving on, what other rewards can we offer? We've talked a lot about making sure the environment is good, feeding people, and Janice talked a lot about you know, having that two-way communication and sharing information. I mean, for me, this is kind of difficult because, frankly, if anyone asks me anything on my show, I'm going to basically answer. So it's difficult to be more open and honest with a playtester than I am with, you know, anyone who might be watching. But yeah, what kinds of other rewards can you think of that haven't already been mentioned? And I'll switch up the...
Well, I think a lot of my playtesting experience as well, because I also in the RPG industry, because you mentioned Modifius, Alan, and a lot of that with playtesters, sometimes it's just getting credit, like, okay, we'll put your name on the list as a playtester, somebody that contributed, so your contribution is acknowledged in the game. And I think the first time that happened to me when I playtested a game for a role-playing game, that was really exciting because I opened up the book and my name was in the back, and that was really nice. And I know that you've done something similar with that, Bez, haven't you? Do you have somewhere you've got people's names like as credit on your site? Or I know people do things like that, but I think that can be a thing.
have a long list of all the people's names at the end of the rule sheets. I don't actually. I think I have the original rule sheets for first edition Wibble++, now known as the LDEC, where
that's what I
history.
mean.
And the history kind of tells you what's going on, and it specifically calls out Gilhova, because Gilhova's game was such a big part of it, and then it's got all these names. But it actually explains why they're important. And yeah, for sure, a bunch of them did get free copies of the game, because afterwards it was like, hey, Rob, thank you for setting up Playtest UK. Thank you for playtesting Wibble. Thank you for encouraging me. Here's a copy. Hey, Gilhova, here's a copy of the LDEC, because it's been really valuable that you made this game.
I think that there's as Tali said earlier, there's people have different motivations for volunteering. So I think if you can understand what that is, then you can meet that need. So some people, if they're just your friends, they just want to help you out. So actually them coming along and helping you saying thank you and being grateful is enough. Whereas other people, maybe they want to be involved as a fan and part of the community, like with some of Alan's playtesters. And so for them, getting to have a voice in it and be part of the conversation about developing it is what they get out of it. So I think you have to kind of look at that individual community and people you have and see what it is that they want and meet that need. So I think it's really, there's not a one size fits all approach to it.
Yeah, I agree with Jess there. It is it's about that relationship. Having a credit, yes. Having a copy of the game, yes. I mean, with Snowdonia, I think we had a number of people who designed little promo cards. So some of our playtesters actually had the opportunity to design little promo cards which actually went in the game. So and that's a common Kickstarter thing, isn't it? That you can, with Kickstarter, you can pay to have something in the game, and you could do that with playtesters. So playtesters that are particularly helpful could have that. You have an opportunity to stick one of your ideas into the game, either as a promo or as part of the game. That's something that you can do, but it really depends on the relationship with the particular playtester. In my experience, some people literally say, "I'm not expecting anything from this. Don't give me anything," which is kind of helpful. But a copy of the game is very often the thing that playtesters will be very grateful for.
I wish I had took a note of all the names of the people that tested. After a while, I was just getting their feedback and contacts, but then a lot going on, and actually I don't have enough copies to send out to everyone that tested. But this is sad. But it's something that I learned for my next games. I will organize this better with the whole people that helped and the whole people that help finance, and also to put in account that this is something that they would really enjoy to see, because I wasn't expecting the game to be published at all. So it got me as a surprise, a very nice surprise. And at the end, I get like this amazing network and contacts that I will definitely use again for my next game. And and then consider this for like in case that the next game also gets published, that they get their names there, because I think it's fair enough. The best I can do now is actually put them all online, and I'm sending personal thank you letters for the backers for Double Dash, and not only copy and paste. I'm thinking about like each and every person. I'm lucky because it's just a few hundred, 100 something actually, not even a few hundred. So it's doable, and I appreciate, because it's such a small community, and it's good to have this closer contact.
Yeah, I think this is something that Janice mentioned earlier, and shared some of Janice's comments that I just got privately into the public comments, and yeah, it feels like there's a big virtue in being organized and keeping track of other people. I mean, from a personal point of view, like keeping track of someone's birthday, when is their birthday? It kind of shows you care. And in the same sense, like keeping track of who playtested this game, not only from a, okay, let's actually make all this information work for us, who playtested it, how long was it, what's their contact detail, but then afterwards using it to do what Tali says, like writing those personalized thank you messages. Maybe it's just a, hey, thank you for playing it at UK Games Expo, and that's it. Maybe it's, hey, thank you for playing at UK Games Expo, and actually you were the person who finally motivated me to get rid of the unique card backs in Kitty Cataclysm, and that made such a big difference. And sometimes it can be, okay, this one person, they come along, they're not necessarily doing any more work than anyone else, but what they do makes such a bigger difference. Now, they've not necessarily put in more effort. Does that just mean that they deserve more compensation? Moving a little bit away from rewards and what support is needed to facilitate a good playtest, we've already talked about potential feedback forms. That might have been before we started recording, but how Playtest UK having these feedback forms and saying, hey, here's what I would like you to talk about, guiding that conversation. How else can we facilitate a good playtest? Tali, what support do we need to give people to let them do a good job for us?
I think the communication is essential, like that you communicate exactly what you are expecting. And for example, for the rule sheet, I gather the people together and I say, I'm very happy that you're here. My intention is that you learn to play the game according to what's written. So I'm not going to explain how to play the game. I would kindly ask you to take 20 minutes and read the rules. If you need less time and you're finished, then we can catch up and you can ask me questions. But first, take this time to read the rules, and then we play the game quickly, and then we can talk. Yeah, try to make clear that you want them to have fun and to play the game, but also that you need something from them, which is like, of course, that they have a good time, but that they give you some information about their impressions and what they think it's okay, what they think that could be better. And do not expect that playtesters know how to communicate well exactly what you need to know. You have to know how to ask the right question. This is important because most of my playtesters, they were just people playing games. They were not game developers, so they were not taking like in consideration points that I take in consideration. So I would like have a list of the questions to go like through the point that I want to make. Like, okay, was it difficult to get to understand this specific rule while playing the game, or does it make sense for you, like specifically in the rules that I think they are problematic, or like while watching the game I saw people were playing this wrong, so I can get to the point like how can I actually improve my game and make it work.
Yeah, I agree with all that Tali has said. It's all about setting expectations on both sides. What I tend to do, well, there's different types of playtesting. If it's early playtesting, I very often won't have the rules because they'll be in my head or they'll be sketchy notes. So my playtesting might be me explaining the thing verbally and then getting them to play it. If I have got rules, I will often make those available in advance so that people can look at them. But in my experience, a lot of people, even playtesters, don't read rules. They will. I often find that there'll be one person in the group who's actually read the rules, and they will be the leader of that particular group. And what I tend to do, if I'm I kind of mark out at least two different types of playtesting. One is when I'm there. Well, actually 3 types. Let's be honest, it's 3 types. One is if I'm there and I am leading the session, in the sense that I am making that session move on, and particularly online, that's what I will often do, because otherwise the interface can get in the way. And for example, we're doing a lot of testing on Tabletopia, and it can be difficult to separate out what's a problem with Tabletopia and what's a problem with the game. And so I in order to make the game move on, particularly if it's a long game, complex game, I will tend to push the game on. And then the second type is where I've given them the rules and all the setup, and they have to interpret it all. And I'm maybe still there observing, but I'm not leading it. And then finally, there's blind testing, which is where we just give them everything and say, right, you should be able to play the game from this. I'll come back to that in a second. But so what I will tend to do if I'm there is ask for opinions, but don't ask leading questions if I can avoid it, because I really want to get response. I might think that a bit of the rules there isn't very clear. If that doesn't come out in playtesting, and if I've got evidence that actually, it is actually clear, people know there's not a problem, then I need to drop that because it's not an issue. And I might, if that situation arises, I might say, well, okay, I will explicitly ask now. And not very often I'll get there if I know we didn't find that a problem at all. However, this bit, which you thought was really clear, what about this interpretation? So that, in a sense, I quite frequently don't use structured feedback forms. I mean, I sometimes do because I want to give some guidance about the kinds of things I want feedback on, but often I don't use structured feedback forms. If I'm present at the game, I will actually have extensive conversation afterwards. I mean, particularly on our designer days when we're all game designers, so we kind of have got experience of how to do this. We will have extensive conversations. We might have a game which lasts half an hour, and we'll have an hour and a half feedback on it. That's quite common.
That makes a lot of sense. And finally, Jess.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I think communication is really important, not asking leading questions, all those things. I think another really important thing is if you are hosting a playtest event, is making sure it's accessible and safe for everybody. And that's whether it's online or in person. If it's online, if you're managing like a Discord channel community, you need to have rules and things set up so that everybody feels they're able to be part of that community. So there's no harassment or anything like that. If you're physically hosting something, is the space physically accessible? Like, from an ableist point of view, is it only accessible up some stairs and stuff? Or what if some of your playtesters, don't use stairs or they use a wheelchair? And also accessibility in a social sense as well. Like there was near me a playtesting group that used to meet up, but where they would meet up was down a back road in a pub in a not so nice part of town at a time that when it closed, it would be very late and dark. And for me, I didn't feel it was safe for me to kind of walk home from that location afterwards, so I couldn't attend. So sometimes thinking about those little things would be kind of interesting. So making sure that everyone can attend, so you get, people that want to be part of it, and also that they feel welcome and safe when they're there. And that's for online or in person. I think that's really valid.
That makes a lot.
Because people are volunteering. Oh, sorry. I was just saying, because they're volunteering, you want them to have a fun and a nice time.
Absolutely. So, and I guess all of this goes into whatever event you're running. And I really appreciate that you talked about accessibility. Talking about having fun, I think it's worth mentioning, I think Bruno Feduzzi, who's the one who says that they mix their playtests into regular games night. And I've done that quite a bit, where it's like, back in the day when I used to have people over at my house every Thursday, we used to play games every Thursday. Not just like 1 or 2 of us, but like we had, between 8 and it got to the point where I actually bought a second table, which we used like one time. And then, anyway, with 2020, let's move on. So the point being that come for a games night, there's a bunch of snacks. It's going to be a fun thing. And here's something that it might be appropriate to play. It fits in with the vibe of the day. And we do have to really wrap up, but yeah, some final thoughts from. I'll do a quick recap, wrap up, and then we'll go around for some final thoughts. That's what I'll do. So we have talked about so much, and thank you everyone for your input. We talked about games played, making new games. We talked about opinions, how opinions allow us to relate to others, connect to others, and humans matter. And maybe we ultimately are our opinions, but opinions allow us to be challenged, and opinions define us along with our actions. Alan said, playtesting, it's all about finding other folks' opinions, information, and reactions, that sort of thing. And also solo playtesting in your mind is a thing, but that's not what we're concentrating on. Why to do it? Because we're researching, we're helping others, we're being excited about new stuff, we're seeing how a game develops, we're wanting to feel involved, we're learning, because as a designer, by playtesting someone else's, we might actually learn from their practices. And also as a designer, it's about reciprocation. That's a thing that every Friday back in the day you used to go, okay, I'll playtest to other people's things and then playtest my stuff. And how to get them to do stuff is to make folk passionate. We talked about the line. We didn't really fully explore it, but there is a blurry line between development and playtesting. We talked about making sure to value their feedback. We talked about validating their suggestions, writing back, thinking and explaining a response about what you're going to do with it, even if you aren't going to do anything with it, chatting with them via direct messages, maybe sending them personalized messages after the fact, like handwritten things. We talked a lot about remuneration. We talked about drinks and snacks and making a pleasant environment and talking and making it fun and sharing the information and copy of the game. But we decided that ultimately we're not really in a position to be able to remunerate. And if we had to do that, then it would for sure mean that either all the games are rubbish or the games are basically unviable. And we talked about who dictates the terms, like the flexibility, because that's kind of a note of, is it an employment relationship? Are you kind of expecting someone to definitely be there? Is there someone, you know what, if you really can't make it, it's okay? Because if it's a genuine commitment, then probably they should be financially at least remunerated in some manner as best you can. We talked about taking notes and being organized in order to thank those people. When you're actually running the playtest, communicating, why am I doing the test? Tell those folk, what am I expecting? Check expectations on both sides. Don't be afraid to step in and change things as appropriate. And asking questions, but not leading questions. And then just talked about accessibility for playtesters and the venue and the social stuff. And that could led me to think about cognitive accessibility, but of course there is a prerequisite for, if you're playtesting this game, you need certain degree of cognitive ability, but are you asking a degree of cognitive accessibility that isn't actually to do with your game? Like having those rules up ahead of time. Maybe someone can't hear very well, in which case, could you have those written rules up there? And then I started recapping everything, which brings me to the present moment, at which point I'm going to ask everyone, just regarding the topic itself, do you have any final words? Very briefly. Sally.
Playtesting is awesome. I love it. And I'm looking forward to testing my new games. And yeah, I recommend. It's an amazing social activity and a way to connect to people and build a community.
I have three words: community, exchange, and listening. And I think the most important is community.
Yeah, I'd agree with Alan. For me, playtesting is a huge part of the board game community, and I think something people are really missing with conventions, because that's a big part of it. And I think it's been really interesting in 2020 how we try and take those communities online and try and have some sort of connection with it in a way that's safe and that we can at the moment.
And this is the time at which I say thank you, everyone. I say that, I want to say, yeah, thank you, everyone who's been watching. Thank you for all your comments. Thank you to, you know, if you watching for the first time and I saw you last night, or if you've been here for loads of times, or if you're moderating and you're an amazing person in Leipzig, you know, wherever you are. And for obviously everyone who's here, whether you're from Berlin or the UK, which, you know, we don't actually have that much representation when it comes to it. It's like we're representing 2 countries. But hey ho, it is an English show, it is what it is. But thank you, everyone. You have been amazing. And going round, how do you like to be found?
You can find me on doggo-.com or Tali, the Doggo-lady on Twitter. You put the links there, and yeah.
I am on Alan at surprisetairgames.co.uk. I'm Benson Fish on various games sites, and we have our website, which is surprisetairgames.co.uk.
I wear lots of different hats at work. So my general personal social profiles is Tabletop Jess, and that will be across most platforms. For Meatmax Games, if you go to meatmaxgames.com/reindeer games, you can get a free game for Christmas, which I will give to you, Reindeer Games. So please go and get that. And you can also have links onto our playtesting for Meatmax Games. If you have any manufacturing questions about shipping or things like that, I also work for Longpack Games, and you can contact me at jessica.hancock@longpack.com. And if you are wanting to talk to me about RPG stuff, there is EN Publishing RPG.com, where you can find links to get in touch with us there.
And yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, thank you everyone for the appreciation. And if you want to check me out, I am Stuff by Bez basically everywhere. I now passed 100 subscribers on YouTube. The next step apparently is 1,000, because apparently once you get to 1,000, then you get some bonus things that I didn't know about. So you get like some sort of community tab. I'm not sure what it is, but it's like, yeah, I could have access to that. I want it. So yeah, all the Stuff by Bez is now again over to you. What are you up to? You can share anything if you want to. So anyone watching, what are you going to be doing today? What are your ambitions? What are your hopes? You could share a boring fact about yourself if you want. We have about 2 minutes. So literally anything that you want to share. I definitely going to the bank today. I'm going to do a wee bit of more writing, and yeah, I'm going to be doing a bit of streaming tonight because it's Tuesday. And so 8 p.m. Tuesdays, I tend to play a thing. If you want to join in, then let me know. If I know you, then you can join in on video. If I don't know you, then you can join in the chat. And when I say if I know you, honestly, it's not a high barrier. Like basically, if I know that you aren't a jerk, that's basically the barrier that you have to cross. Be not a jerk. And so I don't know what we're going to play. It'll either be a simple party game or some sort of word game. There will be as few electronics involved as possible, despite the fact that we're doing it obviously via video, and you'll possibly want pen and paper. But that is that. How about you, Tali? What are you up to?
Groceries, leaving the house after 5 days to do groceries and then come back.
I have a new implement here, which I've just got for games. This is what is called a wad punch, if you've not seen one before. And this is the bit that you use. You stick it on the end of there, and then use a hammer. You put this onto your sheet of card, and you hit it with a hammer, and it punches out counters. And I've only got 300 and something counters to do for Kingmaker, so that's going to be fun. Apparently it's not going to be fun, but you know, I'm kind of looking I'm looking forward to it because I haven't done it before, and I've only recently got this, so it'll be interesting.
That's really interesting because like working in manufacturing, that's like a tiny version of the massive machines that we would have to do that normally. So
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Well, for me, this afternoon, I am going to take my dog to the vets. He's fine. He just needs his annual injections and checkup. And then after that, I'm not going to leave the house till Christmas Eve because my housemate has just been told they need to isolate because the track and trace app has told them that they've come into contact with somebody with COVID. So, yes. So I'm battening down the hatches until Christmas Eve now, not leaving the house after that at all. Just in case. We're both feeling absolutely fine and have no symptoms, but just in case, we're going to stay at home just so we don't accidentally pass something to anybody else.
And again, thank you everyone for watching. You are all wonderful people. I am always here at 10 a.m. UK time every day. Tomorrow I'm talking about, inspiration with Losbros. Laura Joy Mullarvey from Australia does, anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're just talking about inspiration in music or in board games. Check out all the things. Share, spread the word if you have enjoyed it. If you are watching live on Twitch, then I will have a quick look and see who we are going to. Oh, I know that. Let's actually do a change and let's
It's a bit late to change now, Bez. I think we're already done.
okay. Okay, we're suggesting Idle Michael. So hopefully that will work. And there is only one thing left to say, and we know what that is, right? No one knows what time it is?
Is it the bye-bye song? Or...
Yeah,
No?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye.
Bye bye,
And now
everybody.
it's time to go. Bye, bye.